Admiral Kexthera stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the display screen with confusion. The small moon floating before them looked dead. Its gray surface was covered in ice and rock, no signs of life anywhere. Yet his sensors were telling him a different story. "Admiral, the energy readings are impossible," said his science officer, Dr. Mordak. The tall alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he checked his instruments again. "There's enough power down there to run a major city, maybe several cities." Kexthera's tentacles twitched with interest. His people, the Vilthrons, had been exploring space for thousands of years. They had seen many worlds, many species. But this was strange, very strange. "Check our records again," he ordered. Dr. Mordak worked at his console. "Our survey ships came through this system 300 years ago. They marked this moon as completely dead, no atmosphere worth mentioning, no water, no life. Nothing. Useful." The Admiral moved closer to the main screen. The moon looked exactly like the old reports described. Cold, empty, worthless, but the energy signatures were clear. Something was alive down there, something big. "Sir, I'm detecting organized patterns in the energy flow," reported Lieutenant Kexthera from the sensor station. "It looks like a power grid, a very advanced one." Kexthera felt his blood chill. Advanced power grids meant advanced civilizations. But what kind of species could survive on such a hostile world? And why had they hidden themselves so well? "Try to contact them," he ordered. The communications officer worked at her station for several minutes. "No response, Admiral. I'm broadcasting, on all known frequencies. Either they can't hear us or they're choosing not to answer." Deep beneath the moon's frozen surface, Jin-Ho looked up from his work console as the alert signals flashed red across his screens. The human engineer was, young, barely 30, but his eyes held the wisdom that came from growing up in an impossible place. "Minsu, we have visitors," he called to his colleague across the control room. Min-Su hurried over, her boots clicking on the metal floor. As the colony's defense coordinator, she had been expecting this day for years. "How many ships?" 12. "Big ones. They're trying to talk to us." Minsu studied the sensor data flowing across Jin-Ho's screens. The alien ships were powerful, but their technology was familiar. The colonists had been watching the galaxy for a long time. They knew about the Vilthrons. "Should we answer?" Jin-Ho asked. "Not yet. Let me call a meeting. This decision affects everyone." An hour later, the colony's leadership gathered in their main conference room. The space was carved directly from the moon's rock, but it was comfortable and warm. Soft lights glowed in the ceiling, and the air smelled of the gardens that grew just one level down. Jin Kama, who managed the colony's food production, spoke first. "We've stayed hidden for 2 centuries. Why reveal ourselves now?" "Because they're not going away," Minsu replied. "Look at their ships. They're setting up for a long study. If we don't make contact, they'll start digging. And if they start digging in the wrong place, they could damage our water systems." Du Hyun, the colony's security chief, leaned back in his chair. He was older than the others, with gray in his black hair. "My grandmother always said this day would come. She said we could only hide for so long." "The question is how we reveal ourselves," said Sujin, their communications expert. "Do we show them everything at once? Or do we let them discover us slowly?" Jin-Ho pulled up a holographic map of the moon's interior. Thousands of tunnels and chambers glowed in blue light. Living spaces for 3 million people. Farms that could feed them all. Factories that built everything they needed. All of it hidden beneath kilometers of rock and ice. "They think we're primitive," he said. "Their old surveys missed us completely. They probably expect to find a few thousand survivors living in caves." Minsu smiled at that. "Let them keep thinking that. For now." Above them, Admiral Kexthera was growing impatient. His ships had been orbiting the moon for 6 hours with no response to their signals. He had sent probe after probe to the surface, but they all showed the same thing: empty ice fields and rocky plains. "Admiral, I suggest we send a landing party," Dr. Mordak said. If there's a civilization down there, we need to make direct contact. Very well. Take a full research team, set up a base camp, and start looking for the source of those energy readings. Dr. Mordak selected his team carefully: geologists, biologists, engineers, and a small security detail. They would land at the strongest energy signature and work their way down. The Valthran shuttles touched down on a flat plain near the moon's equator. The aliens wore heavy environmental suits to protect them from the thin atmosphere and freezing cold. They immediately began setting up their equipment. Energy readings are much stronger here, reported the team geologist. The source is definitely underground, maybe 2 kilometers down. Dr. Mordak nodded. Start drilling, we need to see what's down there. Deep in the colony, Jinho watched the aliens through hidden cameras. The drilling machines they were setting up were powerful, but crude. They would take days to reach the outer tunnels. They're drilling right above Section 7, he reported to Minsu. That's close to the main water processing plant, she replied with concern. If they break through there, we could lose water pressure for half the colony. Du Hyun stood up. Then, we stop hiding. We make contact before they cause real damage. The decision was made quickly. The colony had practiced this scenario many times. Everyone knew their role. As the alien drilling continued, they began to notice strange things. Their equipment worked perfectly, but they were being watched. Sensor ghosts appeared and disappeared at the edge of their detection range. Sometimes their machines would stop for no reason, then start again. Sir, I think someone is scanning our equipment, reported a technician. Dr. Mordak looked around the empty ice field. Impossible, there's nothing here. But he was wrong. Beneath their feet, 3 million humans were very much there. And they were getting ready to introduce themselves to the galaxy. The drilling continued through the night. The Valthrans worked, in shifts, slowly boring deeper into the moon's crust. They had no idea that with each meter they dug, they were getting closer to the most remarkable discovery in galactic history. In the colony below, final preparations were being made. Soon the hiding would be over. Soon the aliens would learn what humans could accomplish when they refused to give up. The moon looked dead from space, but it was very much alive, and it was about to change everything the Valthrans thought they knew about survival, about technology, and about the species called humans. Dr. Mordak wiped sweat from his forehead as he watched the drilling operation. Even in the freezing cold of the moon's surface, the work was hard. His team had been drilling for 18 hours straight, and they were finally making real progress. How deep are we now? He asked his chief engineer. 1.7 kilometers, sir. The rock is getting softer. We should break through to whatever's down there within the next few hours. The Valthran scientist nodded with satisfaction. Soon they would solve this mystery. He expected to find maybe a small underground cave system with some basic life forms, perhaps a few primitive creatures that had learned to survive in this harsh environment. He had no idea that every word he spoke was being heard by the humans below. In the colony's main control room, Do Hyun stood with his arms crossed, listening to the alien conversations through hidden microphones. The security chief's face was grim. They're almost through to Section 7, he said to the group of colonists around him. Another 2 hours and they'll hit the outer boundary of the water processing plant. Sujin looked worried. If they break, the pressure seals will lose water to 3 residential blocks. That's nearly 500,000 people. Taeho, the colony's mining director, studied the drilling data on his screen. Their equipment is crude but powerful. They're not being careful about structural damage. They could cause a cave-in. Jinho spoke up from his engineering station. We can't let them continue. Too many lives are at risk. Do Hyun made the decision that would change everything. Begin Phase 1 contact protocols. We're going up. The colonists moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Emergency teams secured the drilling zone from below while engineering crews prepared the surface access points. On the surface, Dr. Mordak was checking the drill readings when something impossible happened. The massive drilling machine simply stopped. All of its lights went out. The engine made a soft sigh and went silent. What happened? He demanded. The chief engineer was frantically checking his controls. I don't know, sir. Everything just shut down. Power, hydraulics, computer systems, everything. Check the backup systems. Sir, the backups are dead too. This doesn't make sense. It's like someone just turned off the entire machine. Dr. Mordak felt his skin crawl. Machines didn't just turn themselves off. Not machines built by the Velthrons. Their technology was the best in the galaxy. Sir, called out the security chief. Movement on the perimeter. The Velthrons turned to look across the ice field. At first they saw nothing. Then, like magic, figures began to appear. They seemed to rise right out of the ground itself. Impossible, Dr. Mordak whispered. The figures walked toward them with calm, steady steps. They wore simple protective suits that looked nothing like Velthran technology. Their movements were confident, unafraid. Should we call for backup? Asked the security chief, his hand moving toward his weapon. Wait, Dr. Mordak said. Let's see what they want. The leading figure stopped a few meters away and raised one hand in what was clearly a peaceful greeting. When it spoke, the voice was surprisingly clear through their communication systems. Welcome to our home, the figure said in perfect Velthran language. My name is Do-hyun. I represent the people who live here. We need to talk. Dr. Mordak's 4 eyes went wide with shock. You speak our language? We speak many languages. We've been listening to galactic communications for a long time. Do-hyun's voice was calm and friendly, but there was steel underneath. We need you to stop your drilling operation immediately. Stop? But we're conducting important scientific research. This is a dead world. We're just trying to understand the energy readings we detected. Do-hyun turned and looked at the silent drilling machine. Your equipment is no longer working because we disabled it. We did this to protect our water systems. Your drill was about to cause serious damage to infrastructure that supports many lives. The Velthran scientist felt his blood run cold. You disabled our equipment? That's impossible. Our technology is advanced? Yes, it is, but not as advanced as you think. Do-hyun gestured to one of his companions. Taeho, please show our guests what we can do. The human named Taeho stepped forward, carrying what looked like a small metal box. He placed it on the ground next to the drilling machine and pressed a button. Immediately, the massive drill roared back to life. All its systems came online as if nothing had ever been wrong. Taeho pressed the button again. The machine went silent. How? Dr. Mordak demanded. Quantum field manipulation. Taeho explained as if he were talking about the weather. Your machines use electromagnetic systems. We simply created a localized field that disrupted their operation. Very simple, really. Dr. Mordak's legs felt weak. Quantum field manipulation was theoretical even for the Velthrans. These creatures were talking about it like basic engineering. Who are you? He asked. We are humans, Do-hyun replied. This is our colony. We've lived here for over 200 years. Lived here? On this dead rock? Sujin stepped forward. Dead? Sir, with respect, you need to look more carefully. This world is very much alive. She raised her hand and made a gesture. Suddenly, the ice field around them began to glow. Lines of soft light appeared in patterns across the ground, stretching out to the horizon. They could see that the entire surface was covered in a vast network of glowing lines. Those are access points, Sujin explained. Entryways to our city below. There are over 40,000 of them across the moon's surface. Dr. Mordak stared at the glowing patterns. City? How many of you are there? 3 million, Do-hyun answered simply. The Velthran scientist sat down heavily on a piece of equipment. 3 million, living underground on a moon that his people had declared completely uninhabitable. This is impossible, he whispered. No, said Jin-ho, speaking for the first time. Difficult, yes, dangerous, certainly, but not impossible. Humans are very good at making impossible things work. Do-hyun looked at the stunned alien scientist with something that might have been sympathy. Dr. Mordak, we've been monitoring your communications. We know you came here to study what you thought were unusual energy readings. We're prepared to satisfy your scientific curiosity. But first, we need your word that you won't cause any more damage to our home." "Your home?" Dr. Mordak repeated numbly. "Yes, and we'd like to invite you to see it. Your entire team is welcome, but you come as our guests, following our rules." The Valthron security chief stepped forward. This could be a trap. Do-Hyun smiled, and there was something unsettling about that smile. "Sir, if we meant you harm, your drilling equipment would not be the only thing we disabled. Your ships in orbit stopped receiving telemetry from your landing party 12 minutes ago. Your weapon systems went offline 6 minutes ago. Your life support has been running on backup power for the last 2 minutes." The security chief, frantically, checked his equipment. Everything Do-Hyun said was true. "How?" he gasped. "We've had 2 centuries to study galactic technology," Do-Hyun said. "We know your systems better than you do, but we're not your enemies. We're just people who want to live in peace. The question is, do you want to learn about us, or do you want to go back to your ships and pretend you never found us?" Dr. Mordak looked around at his team. They were all staring at the glowing patterns in the ice, at the humans who had appeared from nowhere, at their own dead equipment. "We want to learn," he said quietly. "Do dash?" He unnodded. "Good. Then follow us. And prepare yourselves. What you're about to see will change everything you thought you knew about survival." The humans turned and began walking toward one of the glowing access points. The Valthrons followed, their minds reeling with questions and possibilities they had never imagined. The access point turned out to be a smooth metal platform that could barely be seen under the ice. As the humans stepped onto it, the platform began to glow and slowly descend into the ground. The Valthrons followed nervously, watching walls of solid rock slide past them as they dropped deeper and deeper into the moon. "How far down does this go?" Dr. Mordak asked. "This particular entrance goes down about 3 kilometers, Sujin replied. She had taken over as their guide, and her calm manner helped ease some of the aliens' fears. But the city itself extends much deeper. We've built down to nearly 15 kilometers in some places." Commander Veltar, the Valthron military advisor, looked uncomfortable. 15 kilometers? That's deeper than most of our mining operations." "Mining?" Young Su laughed. The colony's master architect was a small man with bright eyes. "We don't mine here. We sculpt. Every tunnel, every chamber, every space is designed for a purpose. This isn't a hole in the ground, it's a work of art." The platform finally stopped and the doors opened. The Valthrons stepped out and immediately stopped in shock. They were standing in a vast underground plaza. The ceiling soared at least 50 meters above them, carved from solid rock but decorated with flowing patterns that seemed to move in the gentle lighting. Gardens filled the space with green plants and colorful flowers. Water flowed in small streams between the walkways. The air was warm and fresh, smelling of growing things. But what truly amazed the aliens were the people. Hundreds of humans moved through the plaza, going about their daily business. Children played in the gardens while adults sat and talked on comfortable benches. Everyone looked healthy and happy. "This is impossible," Dr. Mordak whispered for the 3rd time that day. "There's that word again," Sujin said with a smile. "Let me show you why we don't use it very much." She led them deeper into the city. The tunnels were wide and well lit, with smooth walls that curved in gentle arcs. Moving walkways carried people and goods efficiently through the transport network. Everything was clean and well maintained. "How do you power all this?" Dr. Mordak asked. G-1, the hydroponics engineer who had joined their group, answered. "Fusion reactors. We have 47 of them scattered throughout the colony. Each one is about the size of your transport pod, but they can power a city block for decades." Commander Veltar stopped walking. "Portable fusion reactors? We've been trying to build those for centuries." "Yes, we know," G1 replied. "We've been monitoring your research. You're making it too complicated. Fusion is actually quite simple once you stop thinking about it as a big engineering problem and start thinking about it as controlled stellar physics. The Valthran military. Officer looked confused. What's the difference? Scale and approach. You're trying to build massive containment systems. We build tiny ones and use a lot of them. Much more reliable, and if one fails, it doesn't take out half a continent. They entered a massive chamber that stretched out beyond what the aliens could see. The space was filled with growing plants arranged in perfect geometric patterns. Automated systems moved between the rows, tending to the crops with mechanical precision. This is our primary food production facility, Jiwan explained. It feeds about 800,000 people. Dr. Mordak walked between the growing beds, examining the plants. These yields are incredible. Some of these plants are producing 3 times what they should be able to manage. Genetic optimization, controlled environment, and perfect nutrient delivery, Jiwan said. Also, we've learned to work with the plants instead of just giving them what we think they need. Turns out plants are much smarter than most people realize. How do you mean, smarter? They communicate. Chemical signals, electrical patterns, root network exchanges. When you learn to listen to what they're telling you, you can help them grow much better. Jiwan touched one of the plants gently. This corn plant is telling me it needs slightly more phosphorus and a little less water. Tomorrow, it will tell me something different. Young Su led them to an observation platform that overlooked the main residential district. The sight below made the aliens gasp. Streets and buildings stretched out in all directions, carved directly from the living rock. Soft lights illuminated walkways and plazas where thousands of people moved about their daily lives. 3 million people, Young Su said with quiet pride, living in comfort and safety in a place your surveys said could never support life. How? Commander Veltar asked. How did you build all this? The same way humans have always built things, one piece at a time with patience and determination. Young Su gestured at the city below. Our ancestors arrived here with basic hand, tools and portable equipment. No massive construction machines, no orbital support, just humans who refused to die. But the engineering required is learned, not born, Sujin interrupted. Every child in this colony starts learning mathematics and physics before they can walk properly. By age 10, they understand engineering principles that would challenge most university graduates in the galaxy. By 20, they're ready to take on major construction projects. Dr. Mordak pointed to a group of young humans working on what looked like a complex piece of machinery. How old are those children? 12 to 15 years old, Young Su replied. They're building a new water recycling system for the Eastern District. It's their final project before they move on to advanced training. The aliens watched in amazement as the teenagers worked with tools and techniques that looked far beyond their years. They moved with confidence and skill, clearly understanding every aspect of what they were building. This is how we survive, Sujin explained. Everyone contributes, everyone learns, everyone becomes exceptional because our survival depends on it. They visited the manufacturing district next, where humans created everything the colony needed. Advanced electronics, precision machinery, even artistic decorations for public spaces. All of it made from materials mined and processed within the colony itself. We are completely self-sufficient, Young Su explained. We make our own tools, grow our own food, generate our own power, even create our own entertainment. We could survive here for thousands of years without any outside help. Commander Veltar watched a team of workers assembling what looked like a spacecraft engine. You build ships too? Of course. How do you think we've been monitoring galactic communications? We have observation posts throughout this solar system. Small, stealthy, but very effective. The tour continued for hours. The aliens saw medical facilities that could treat injuries and diseases that would be fatal on most worlds. Educational centers where children learned everything from basic skills to advanced theoretical physics. Research laboratories where humans pushed the boundaries of science and engineering. But what impressed the Velthrans most was not the technology. It was the people themselves. Every human they met was calm, confident, and capable. Children played happily while adults worked. With quiet efficiency, no one seemed stressed or worried. Everyone seemed to know exactly what they were doing and why. "You're not just surviving here," Dr. Mordak realized. "You're thriving." "Now you're beginning to understand," Sujin said. "Survival isn't enough for humans. We don't just want to live. We want to live well. We want to grow, to learn, to become more than we were." As they returned to the main plaza, young Su stopped and looked at the aliens seriously. "You came here expecting to find desperate people clinging to life in caves. Instead, you found a civilization that has turned the impossible into the everyday. Do you understand what this means?" Dr. Mordak thought about everything he had seen. The incredible engineering, the happy, healthy people, the technology that surpassed anything his own civilization had achieved. "It means we've been wrong about everything," he said quietly. "Not wrong," Sujin corrected gently. "Just limited in your thinking. You see a dead world and think impossible. We see a dead world and think challenging. The difference in perspective changes everything." Commander Veltar looked around the plaza one more time. "How many other colonies like this are there?" Sujin and Young Su exchanged glances. "That," Sujin said with a mysterious smile, "is a question for tomorrow's discussion." The aliens realized that what they had discovered was not just one impossible colony. It was something much bigger, something that would change their understanding of what it meant to be human. The ground shook violently beneath their feet, throwing Dr. Mordak against the wall of the guest quarters where the Veltrons had been staying. Emergency lights began flashing throughout the colony, and a calm voice spoke over the communication system. "All citizens, this is Control. We are experiencing a magnitude 7.2 seismic event. Emergency protocols are now in effect. Please remain calm and follow standard procedures." Dr. Mordak pulled himself to his feet, his four eyes wide with terror. Magnitude 7.2 was enough to destroy most cities, but as he looked around, he was amazed to see that the humans weren't panicking at all. Commander Veltar stumbled out of his room, clearly shaken. "We need to evacuate. The whole city could collapse." Sujin appeared in the corridor, moving quickly but calmly. "Evacuate? No, we need to get to the Emergency Coordination Center. You wanted to understand how we survive here. You're about to see exactly how we do it." She led them through corridors filled with humans moving with purposeful urgency. No one was running or shouting. Children walked hand in hand with adults, following evacuation routes they had clearly practiced many times. Elderly citizens moved at their own pace, helped by younger neighbors who appeared without being asked. "How can they be so calm?" Dr. Mordak asked. "Because we've dealt with this before," Sujin replied. "Earthquakes happen here about twice a year. We're prepared." They reached the Emergency Coordination Center, a large room filled with display, screens, and communication equipment. The space buzzed with activity as dozens of humans worked at various stations, coordinating the colony's response to the crisis. At the center of it all stood Kyung Ho, the colony's emergency response coordinator. He was a tall man with graying hair, and he radiated the kind of calm authority that came from years of experience. His voice carried clearly across the room as he directed operations. "Sector 7 reports minor structural damage to the east wall. Engineering Team 3, respond immediately. Sector 12 has lost primary power. Switch to backup systems and get repair. Crews moving. Medical teams prepare for possible casualties but keep regular operations running." Young, the structural engineer, appeared at his side with a tablet full of data. "The main support columns in the residential district are holding well. No critical damage detected. But we have a problem with the central power distribution grid." Kyung-ho studied the information quickly. "How bad?" "The earthquake damaged 3 main conduits in the lower levels. We're losing power to the manufacturing district and the primary water processing plant. If we don't fix it within 6 hours, we'll start having serious problems." Dr. Mordak listened to this conversation with growing amazement. These humans were discussing repairs that would take his people weeks to plan, and they were talking about completing them in hours. "What do you need?" Kyung-ho asked. 2,000 meters of high-capacity power cable, A dozen fusion welding units and about 300 volunteers who aren't afraid of tight spaces, Na Young replied. Done. Sung Woo, coordinate with manufacturing to produce the cable. Use emergency protocols for rapid fabrication. Mi Ran, put out a call for volunteers. We need people who can work in the deep tunnels. Xiong Wu, the power systems specialist, was already working at his console. Manufacturing says they can have the cable ready in 2 hours if we use all available production lines. Do it, Kyung-ho ordered. What about the welding equipment? We have 8 units ready now, and maintenance can modify 4 more within Seoul. The hour, Xiong-Wu reported. Dr. Mordak watched in fascination as the humans organized their response. Every person seemed to know exactly what to do. Orders were given and received without confusion. Resources were allocated and deployed with incredible efficiency. How do you coordinate all this so quickly? He asked Soo-jin. Practice, she replied, simply. We run emergency drills every month. Everyone knows their role. Everyone understands how the systems work. When something like this happens, we don't waste time figuring out what to do. We just do it. Within an hour, the volunteers had assembled. Dr. Mordak was amazed to see people of all ages, from teenagers to elderly citizens. They carried tools and equipment with the confidence of experienced professionals. I want to help, announced a girl who couldn't have been more than 16. Na-Young looked at her seriously. Minji, this is dangerous work. The tunnels are unstable and we'll be working with high-voltage systems. I know, Minji replied. I've been training for deep tunnel work for 2 years. My specialty is electrical systems repair in confined spaces. Na-Young nodded and handed her a toolkit. Team 7, Sector C4. Be careful down there. Commander Veltar stared at this exchange. You're sending children into danger? We're sending qualified technicians where they're needed, Kyung-ho corrected. Minji has more training in electrical repair than most adults in the galaxy. Age doesn't matter. Competence does. The repair teams spread out through the colony's tunnel system. Dr. Mordak and the other aliens followed one of the teams into the deeper levels, where the damage was worse. The tunnels here were narrow and dark, lit only by emergency lighting. Water dripped from cracks in the ceiling, and the air was thick with dust from the earthquake. The repair crew moved through this environment like they owned it, carrying heavy equipment and supplies without complaint. Here's the main break, announced one of the technicians, pointing to a section where thick power cables had been crushed by falling rock. The team went to work immediately. Some cleared debris while others measured and cut new cable. The fusion welders began making connections with precision that would have impressed master craftsmen anywhere in the galaxy. Dr. Mordak watched a man who looked to be in his 70s, working alongside the teenagers, his hands steady as he made delicate electrical connections. Grandfather Dongwu taught electrical engineering for 50 years before he retired, explained one of the younger workers. He knows more about power systems than anyone in the colony. Retirement? The old man chuckled. Young people these days think retirement means sitting around doing nothing. I'm not dead yet. I can still contribute. The work continued without pause. When one section was repaired, the team moved to the next. They worked in shifts, with fresh crews replacing, tired ones every few hours, but the work never stopped. This would take us weeks, Commander Veltar admitted to Kyung-ho. How do you do it so fast? Because we have to, Kyung-ho replied. On a world like this, delay means death. We learned long ago that when something breaks, you fix it immediately. You don't wait for perfect conditions or ideal resources. You use what you have, and you solve the problem. But what if you make mistakes? Then you learn from them and do better next time. Perfection is the enemy of progress. We'd rather fix something quickly and improve it later than spend so much time planning that people suffer while we think. By the 4th hour, the major power conduits were back online. Manufacturing resumed production, and the water processing plants began operating normally again. The colony's vital systems were restored to full capacity. Dr. Mordak found himself in the main plaza as the emergency was declared over. All around him, humans were returning to their normal activities. Children resumed playing while adults went back to their regular jobs. It was as if the crisis had never happened. "How do you do it?" he asked Sujin. "Do what?" "All of it. The coordination, the efficiency, the way everyone knows what to do, the way you turn disaster into just another day at work." Sujin thought about this for a moment. "I think it's because we understand something that maybe other species don't. We know that survival isn't about avoiding problems. It's about solving them quickly when they happen. But the way you work together, that's the secret," Sujin said. "Humans alone are clever. Humans together are unstoppable. We learned that lesson well when our ancestors first came to this moon. Either we worked together, or we all died together." Kyung-ho joined them, looking tired but satisfied. "Crisis over. Total time to complete repairs, 5 hours and 37 minutes. No injuries, no fatalities, no permanent damage." 5.5 hours, Dr. Mordak repeated in amazement. "We couldn't have planned a response to this problem in 5.5 hours, let alone completed it." "Planning is important," Kyung-ho agreed. "But planning without action is just thinking. We prefer doing." As the aliens prepared to return to their quarters, they realized they had witnessed something far more impressive than advanced technology or clever engineering. They had seen an entire civilization that had learned to turn catastrophe into opportunity, crisis into growth. "Tomorrow," Sujin said, "we'll show you the really impressive stuff." Dr. Mordak could barely imagine what could be more impressive than what they had already seen. So Young entered the meeting room with quiet dignity. As the colony's director, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had spent decades making impossible decisions. The Velthran delegation stood as she approached, a sign of respect they had learned to show these remarkable humans. "Please sit," she said with a gentle smile. "We have much to discuss, and I suspect what I'm about to tell you will change how you see the galaxy forever." Dr. Mordak leaned forward eagerly. After 3 days in the colony, he had seen wonders that challenged everything he thought he knew about civilization, technology, and survival. But something in So Young's manner suggested that the biggest revelations were yet to come. "You've been very patient with our questions," Admiral Kexathira said. He had arrived that morning with additional ships, drawn by the incredible reports from his advance team. "But I sense you've been holding back some important information." So Young nodded. "We have. Not because we don't trust you, but because we needed to be sure you were ready to understand. What you've seen here is remarkable, yes. But it's only one small part of a much larger story." She gestured to Dong Jin, the quantum communications engineer, who had been quietly setting up equipment in the corner of the room. "Dong Jin, please show our guests the network." Dong Jin activated his device, and suddenly the room filled with a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Thousands of points of light dotted the display, each one pulsing with gentle energy. "What are we looking at?" Commander Veltar asked. "The Human Colonial Network," So Young replied simply. "Each light represents a hidden human colony. There are currently 47 active settlements scattered across the galaxy." The alien stared at the display in stunned silence. Dr. Mordak counted the lights, his scientific mind struggling to process what he was seeing. 47 colonies, he whispered. 47 and growing, Miran confirmed. As the colony's cultural anthropologist, she had studied the development of human expansion for years. Each one represents a different approach to survival in impossible environments. So Young touched one of the lights, and the display zoomed in to show a detailed view of a colony built inside an asteroid field. New Busan, population 2 million. They've mastered zero-gravity manufacturing and can build spacecraft that surpass anything in the galactic fleet. She touched another light. This one showed humans living in what looked like underwater cities. New Jeju, population 800,000. They live in the crushing depths of an ocean world, breathing liquid through bioengineered lungs. They've learned to farm the seafloor and harvest energy from thermal vents. Another touch brought up an image that made the aliens gasp. Humans were working in an environment of pure radiation that should have killed them instantly. New Sol Station, So Young continued. Population, 300,000. They've adapted to high radiation environments by developing natural resistance. They can work in places that would be deadly to most species. Admiral Kexathira found his voice. This is impossible. Our surveys would have detected colonies this size. Your surveys looked for the kind of colonies your species would build, Miran explained gently. Large, obvious structures. Cities that announce themselves to the galaxy. We build differently. We hide, we adapt, we become part of the environment instead of trying to dominate it. Dong Jin manipulated the display to show communication lines connecting all the colonies. Every settlement is linked through quantum entanglement communication. Instantaneous contact across galactic distances. When one colony learns something new, they all learn it. We've been sharing knowledge for 2 centuries, So Young said. Medical advances, technological breakthroughs, survival techniques, cultural developments. Each colony faces different challenges, but we solve them together. Dr. Mordak was studying the display with growing amazement. The colony on New Busan developed anti-gravity technology? Necessity, Miran replied. When you live in an asteroid field, you either learn to control gravity, or you die when the rocks start moving. And the radiation resistance on New Sol Station? Evolved over 6 generations. Humans are very good at adapting when survival depends on it. Commander Veltar pointed to a cluster of colonies near the galactic rim. What are those doing so far from civilized space? Exploring, So Young said simply. Humans are curious by nature. We always want to know what's beyond the next star, around the next planet. Some of our colonies exist purely to push the boundaries of known space. The display changed again, showing technical specifications and capabilities. The aliens read, in growing shock as they saw technologies that their own civilizations were only beginning to theorize about. Controlled stellar fusion, planetary weather manipulation, biological adaptation to any environment, quantum matter transportation. Admiral Kexthyra read aloud. How is this possible? Desperation makes for excellent motivation, So Young replied. When your choice is innovation or death, humans choose innovation every time. Dong Jin brought up another display, this one showing observation posts scattered throughout known space. We've been watching galactic civilization for centuries, learning about every species, studying every technology, understanding every political system. You've been spying on us? Commander Veltar asked, though he didn't sound angry, just amazed. Learning. From you, So Young corrected. We've studied Valthran engineering and improved on it. We've analyzed Zerothian medicine and advanced it. We've observed Killian agriculture and perfected it. Every species in the galaxy has contributed to human survival, whether they knew it or not. Dr. Mordak leaned back in his chair, overwhelmed by the implications. You've been hiding in plain sight, learning everything about us while we knew nothing about you. Not hiding exactly, Miran said. We've just been careful. Humans learned early that the galaxy can be a dangerous place for species that aren't strong enough to defend themselves. But you are strong enough, Admiral Kexathira pointed out. From what we've seen, you're stronger than any of us realized. So Young smiled, and there was something both sad and proud in that smile. Strength isn't just about weapons and ships, Admiral. It's about the ability to survive when everything seems hopeless. It's about finding solutions when there don't seem to be any. It's about working together when working alone means death. And now? Dr. Mordak asked. What happens now that we've found you? So, Young stood and walked to the large window that looked out over the colony's main plaza. Below them, 3 million humans went about their daily lives in a city that shouldn't exist, on a world that couldn't support life. Now we decide whether it's time to stop hiding, she said quietly. For 2 centuries, we've watched and waited and prepared. We've turned exile into evolution. We've made the impossible routine. We've become something the galaxy has never seen before. She turned back to face the aliens. We've become truly free. Free from the limitations that others accept. Free from the belief that some things can't be done. Free from the fear that drives species to fight each other instead of working together. Dongjin activated a final display, showing the locations of hidden human observation posts throughout Velthran space. There were dozens of them, small and undetectable, but perfectly positioned to monitor everything. We know about your military capabilities, So Young said calmly. We know about your political situation, your economic needs, your technological limitations. We know because we've been watching, learning, preparing. Admiral Kexithira stared at the display. Preparing for what? For the day when we could safely introduce ourselves to the galaxy. For the day when we could share what we've learned. For the day when humanity could take its place as equal partners instead of hiding in the shadows. The room fell silent as the aliens absorbed this information. They had come expecting to find a small group of survivors. Instead, they had discovered a hidden civilization that spanned the galaxy and possessed capabilities that surpassed their wildest imagination. What do you want from us? Dr. Mordak asked finally. Nothing, So Young replied. We don't need your resources. We don't want your territory. We don't require your protection. We're completely self-sufficient. Then why reveal yourselves at all? So Young looked at each of the aliens in turn. Because isolation is not the same as independence. We've learned to survive alone, but we've never stopped wanting to belong to something larger. We want to share what we've discovered. We want to contribute to galactic civilization instead of just watching it from the outside. She gestured toward the colony around them. 3 million humans have built a paradise in hell. 47 colonies have done the same across the galaxy. We've solved problems that others thought were impossible. We've created technologies that others thought were theoretical. We've proven that with enough determination, any challenge can be overcome. And we're ready to teach anyone who wants to learn. Admiral Kexithira understood the magnitude of what was being offered. You're talking about sharing technology that could revolutionize galactic civilization. We're talking about sharing knowledge that could ensure galactic civilization's survival, So Young corrected. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Climate change, resource depletion, political conflicts, technological stagnation. Problems that seem impossible to solve. But you've solved them.